What is up? I am Miguel Antonio, and this is the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. On this episode, we have Daniel Cole. He's a drummer, a performer, a brilliant dude. He performs with XV, Cat King, Quixotic, and he used to perform with the band that I led called Run With It, and we toured all over the world, literally, together. It was great catching up with him. We talk about concepts of looking inside yourself and what does it mean to really discover who you are and live out that truth. Hope you guys enjoy.
The Live and Create podcast.
Operating in some form of restriction, at least in this physical form. Whether that's good or bad and it aids in your progress and growth depends on how much truth you apply to your movement versus how much of the fabrication you apply to your movement. Fabrication being the conditioning that we've been placed in within civilization versus operating in our true nature. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's what Jeff and I kind of touched on. Are you rolling at all?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Once you started explaining something, I'm like,
Okay. That's good. But like that's what Jeff and I kind of touched on too. Just the COVID, it's been this great slowing down of everything.
Yeah.
And so it's caused, at least for me, at least for him, I think for a lot of people, it's caused this, I don't know, it's like recalibration of priorities of our own selves in a way. So, but
Yeah, for
but
sure.
here we are, D. Cole, a man.
This recalibration.
Boom.
Take a little-
Recalibration.
Take a little drink. I'm happy because I know you were a part of the journey when I first opened myself up to this experience.
That is true. That is true.
Because I went, 27 years without any type of substance.
Right. Full
Alcohol.
straight edge.
Yeah.
Like X
Full
on the hand.
Yeah.
Underground community.
Yeah.
And
And then life decided, hey, this is where you're at and this is what's available to you. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go for it this time. I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a total fan.
So what is this that we're drinking?
What are
Jeff?
we drinking?
Could you do a quick what we're drinking here? This is
Oh,
Piggy
yeah,
Pop.
man. Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah. So,
Piggy Pop.
Little cameo
so
from Jeff.
Piggy Pop. Yeah. So this is a pet nat. So pet nats are kind of, well, they're kind of like the cool kids on the block right now in wine. You know, I think like people would agree with me on that.
I will now.
So it's generally a natural wine. It's typically natural processed, natural fermented. This one, I believe, is it wasn't inoculated with anything outside of itself. So whatever was on the grape skins when they pressed the grapes, that's what fermented it.
is that why it's called a nat?
Well,
Is there
yeah,
bit of a nat?
nat.
So you're basically saying
Like
the
not
nat,
K
that's
and A T, no. But nat stands for natural or natural.
so it's as untouched as possible.
Right,
When
and-
creating this.
And excuse me, I never took any French lessons, but I think it's pétillant natural.
Sounds right.
So before it finishes fermenting, they bottle it. Okay, cap it, cork it, all that. And then it finishes fermenting in the bottle. So you have like a natural carbonation. A lot of times pet nats are called a party in a bottle. Because, man, when you like open that thing up, who knows what's going to happen, right? It could blow up. It could, crazy, yeah, whatever. Or it could be like this. It was super subdued, right? Like you got some bubbles there, but it's not like crazy or anything, right? But it's a little bit carbonated. It's got a little bit of a different mouthfeel. But in general, the natural wine market, they're like the bad boys.
Okay.
Of the wine world. They're like breaking all the rules, and we're going to put a pig on our label, and kind of like super anti-establishment. If we're going
What
political.
are they establishing? And
Yeah.
It seems like they're establishing something that kind of supposed to be right.
Right, yeah, and it's all a matter of philosophy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like my company, we take a lot of cues from the natural wine community. There's some really cool stuff. They care about the farmers. They care about regenerative farming, meaning we're not stealing all the nutrients from the ground. Instead, we're planting in a way that is regenerating the ground, right? So you go to a biodynamic farm or a regenerative farm, there'll be like lentils right in the middle of the freaking grape, winery, and that's what these guys do. And I think it's really, really like a cool movement because it definitely plays to like the hippie side, I think, of a lot of folks our age, and like we're trying to do right by the world. And the truth of the matter is, wine is just as corrupt an industry as a lot of industries. Yeah. And so the natural wine community is trying to make right by that. Sometimes they miss the mark.
Yeah.
And sometimes they make subpar wines in the process. This is not one of them. This is a good one. These guys are doing good things. I don't know them. I have no reason to represent them, and I'm not representing them. But I'd buy this again.
All right, Piggy Pop. Once I'm done with the rosé, I'm going to jump on this.
I can
Cheers,
definitely
guys.
say
Thank you, sir.
I can definitely say as someone who doesn't drink a ton of wine or alcohol in general, when I do, I'm very sensitive, I feel like, to how it tastes, and it's usually like, this one, I was kind of like, yeah, it's chill, pleasant.
Well, I'm excited to try it. So, D. Cole, man, like you were talking about, you and I, like, we've lived together.
We have.
We have toured together. I spent a few years spending way more time with you than even my own wife and kids.
Yeah.
So, man, one, thank you for being here.
I'm happy you have me here.
But I know you've been on a journey. So, background for those who are watching this video, Daniel and I used to tour in a band called Run With It. We toured like to the Middle East and back. It was an incredible journey. But that journey came to an end, and we've kind of gone our own ways professionally, but personally staying in touch in so many ways. But since then, I know you've been on a journey. So let's kind of break that down. What's one of the big things you've learned since like our time touring together? What's something that jumps out to you? Or is there just so many it's hard to choose?
No. I think what really stuck out to me when we were touring was kind of a proof of concept where, depending on what you invest in your efforts towards something, you're going to get certain results from that. And I was finding with Run With It, like, people who have the right mindset and a consistent workflow, you can accomplish this much, or this much, or maybe this much, depending on how these things are applied. And with Run With It, I was like, yo, we're a local band. We have like such a non-commercial, non-mainstream look, and so it'll be hard to be like, look at these guys and be like, oh yeah, they're gonna make it. But then how we started studying and analyzing and applying what we learned on top of ourselves, we determined that there are ways to get results, and that the music you create and the words you speak are going to transcend what appears in front of you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really valuable for myself personally, but anyone else to realize, is that how things appear aren't the only conclusion, but what you apply can also aid and lend itself to whatever goals and directions you're going for. So just getting the results we got and Run With It, and seeing that we could accomplish these things, was very valuable to me.
That's awesome, man. Now, and I've seen, so your world, I know you're doing stuff with Quixotic, twice on Sunday. What's another band you're with? And then
Cat King.
Cat King, that's
XV.
right. And XV. So you kind of have your hands in a few things now at this point.
Different spaces, teaching drums at School of Rock.
Yeah. What are some goals that are in front of you personally right now?
Goals out in front of me personally. Currently, I feel like I'm in this phase of unlearning and unconditioning to like the deepest level I can possible with the space that I have available to do it.
Unlearning what in particular?
Just unlearning things that don't really, equate to aligning with what appears to be true, like, or what I sense to be like, this doesn't feel like totally right, this doesn't feel true, or we're in this situation, but I have a sense that doesn't necessarily need to be this way. And if we all kind of peel back the things that we've kind of created and established and approach it from a more true, natural sense, we'll get a clearer picture. And so, but in order to get that clear picture, you have to kind of almost have to create a blank slate within yourself, because everything that's coming out of you is being filtered through your experiences and whatnot. And so learning to sit and let those experiences dissolve.
So there's a quote that I actually just added where, like, whenever my computer shuts down, it like pops up on the screen where it's, if you let go of who you are, you can find who you can become. Is it kind of that same concept where, like, if you let go of preconceptions that you have, you can find these new things, or is it something different? Is it?
I think it's part of that, but it's not. But it's also, it's just letting go, just in general, not trying to become anything first. Just like being just totally learning how to be in this sense of being still and trying to not get in the way of life for once, because there are so many things moment by moment that we're not aware of that ourselves that can take our life away. And it's a miracle, to be honest, to kind of almost make it to the next day and just like thinking about, all right, what am I going to go out and do in the world? And is my action adding to us being in a state that actually doesn't really progress us forward, or is my action, you know what I'm saying?
Is it in a sense, are you saying like there's things that you do that we do in general as people that, in a sense, like we get in our own way. So how do we
get in our own way?
How do we push those things aside?
How we push those things aside, not getting our own way, not getting each other's way, just kind of taking a step back and really looking at what it means to, I guess, function properly within yourself. So I know this is becoming more and more common and popular, but everyone focusing on eating right. Everyone focusing on just generally developing more healthier habits. You see it happening across the board through social media. You see these conversations popping up all the time, and people talking about different forms of even how to keep yourself healthy mentally. These are just, it's just happening more and more. And I also think the space that we got through COVID lends itself to be able to really dive in, because we're almost forced to not be in the way. We had to sit down and sit with ourselves, and some people can't sit with themselves because they don't know how to deal with or face what's in here, so all they can do is interact with what's out there.
Right.
And
yeah.
So,
it's like in this year, that's all you had was being able to confront your own self.
Yeah. Being able to confront yourself in your immediate environment.
Is there an example for you over this last year where you feel like you've been able to live that out?
Yeah. I think the second, especially when COVID hit, I think, because, I used to be on social media.
Mm-hmm. You taught me all about social media, man.
Every day, constantly talking to someone, 24/7 messaging, back and forth, building or something like that. And then with this, I finally found the space to say, all right, there's no need for me to have to put energy in right now. I can actually give myself time. I haven't been used to giving myself time. I'm used to just like focusing.
Giving it all.
I'm focusing on outputting so much that I'm doing very little input. And so I'm not really growing as efficiently as I can. I'm not acquiring the most amount of like truth as far as I needed to take me to the next stage of life. But being able to sit back and learn how to be still and really digest what's around me and what's happening in myself, that's kind of what it's been for me. That's been my process. And I think that process is going to be extremely beneficial for everyone. And you see an example, just like when COVID hit, it just appears that the systems in place don't know how to really take care of people, right?
pretty much everything failed.
The system
all
is
of a sudden.
designed to take care of itself. It's not necessarily designed to take care of people. But when we create systems that align more with our nature and how human beings should function, then I think we would have been able to tackle these issues way more efficiently.
Right.
So, yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
No, that's cool, man.
And that's, I guess, my example of it.
So when we toured together and kind of building these things, I know you and I fed off each other so much. Like in a lot of ways, I miss running alongside of you because I felt like you always sharpened me, always challenged me to get better. I hope I did the same. But it felt like we were always kind of running and like, just like, we're going to fucking like annihilate everything. We're going to take over the world was kind of our, our mindset. I think both you and I have been on a journey individually to see like, not that was bad, but I know for me, I'm like recalibrating priorities. Sounds like you are as well.
Yeah.
But for you, what was it that kind of opened that door for this understanding?
For this understanding?
Yeah.
I think what really helped me break through was
That's pretty good. Sorry.
It was around April. My aunt had died. It was like 2 days before, like my birthday and whatnot.
So this actual
my
April?
aunt died, from COVID.
Jesus.
Right at the beginning of it, the whole quarantine. Right. And so it freaked me out because I know my mom is also living in that same area, living with someone who had COVID, and it being brand new and us trying to determine the impact of it. Really, it was just like really stressful. It was a really hard moment of possibly losing all these people I care about, and things felt wild. And then I just kind of was like outside at this riverfront chilling, and I don't know, I just sat down. Something just happened in my brain. It just snapped, and I just felt like going home and really diving into the function of the reality that we're experiencing. Yeah. And that led me to just finding different information and really focusing on like really learning how important it is to prioritize, breathing and meditating and how you conduct, your mental state. Yeah. And how that then goes from in here to out there, and kind of learning how that process is. And then there was this phrase I saw in this video where this guy said, what you gather can be yours, but it can never be you. And so, meaning like, even just our physical body, whether we did it intentionally or unintentionally, consciously or subconsciously, like our physical body is something that was gathered. We're a heap of food. We're like a piece of hardware and whatnot, but it is not the totality of who we are.
Like who we are as a software that's running it?
Yeah, it's not the totality of who we are, but there's just a greater expanse of what's beyond our comprehension, basically, and just really sitting with, okay, I need to learn how to properly identify myself then. And so that led me to, realizing how you identify yourself is going to create the lane and funnel in which you live life. It's going to create a certain restrictions or openness. Like if I say I'm a drummer, right, then what's going to make that true is me living out a life that aligns with all the ideas and concepts that make me a drummer. I have to
no matter what else.
Yeah, I got to practice this, da, da, da. But if I say I'm a drummer, but I'm spending my time driving cars and trying to race,
you're like, I thought, am I doing NASCAR? What's going on?
Yeah, and so what I'm saying is, these identities we create create a certain lane and certain restrictions for us, but it also open us to certain things. But my thing is kind of telling myself I don't need to attach myself to this identity, or I don't need to make that my identity. It's just a way that I'm moving.
So in a sense, who D. Cole is even beyond a drummer?
Yeah,
is what you're saying?
Or who even, like, any of us are. You're not just, you're not
So, like, this is a component, but it's not the totality.
It's not the totality.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's just sitting with that understanding more, really allowing it to like kind of just like apply it throughout life and seeing what that produces. And when I like take my day by day now with this mindset of just a bigger identity, or just like a limitless identity of like I have the same physical bodies as you, but how I've conducted my mind and my thought produce this certain physical form in this space of time where I'm at. But that can easily change as well if you change your mind.
Right.
We hear all that stuff. You change your mind, you change
That is
your
true.
reality type stuff. These conversations are popping up more, and I think we've heard a lot of it growing up in different spaces, whether especially religiously, but all spiritual spaces, but even non-spiritual spaces. You can even see what they show and what I've heard. I haven't actually like gone and read the papers and all that stuff, but what I've listened to online and people speaking and podcasts, I'm like, yo, this really hits. This sounds super true, but like people talking about, you can see the evidence of when a person is operating a certain state of pleasantness, joyfulness, their physical brain is functioning properly. But when they're in a state of stress, then their physical mind is not operating properly. And so,
well, mindset can drive so much.
Yeah.
Like, and I've been thinking about this with the boys, our two younger boys, and which our boys really well.
Yeah.
we so for listeners, we used to call Daniel our Manny, because for a season you lived with us, and he would go pick up our kids for us because Jenny, my wife, and I were working, and you would pick up our boys and take care of them, all sorts of stuff, and take them to McDonald's or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And JoJo would be super excited. What's up? When you come pick him up.
Sometimes, or he'd be like, this
super
you
salty.
need to get a different car. Yeah. It's like, yo, this
he did shit on your car once.
He hated the seatbelt. He was like, I hate this seatbelt. It's not.
Yeah, he's kind of he's a savage.
He is.
But what I've been thinking about for them, so like Judah and JoJo just started their own YouTube channel, right?
Oh,
and
that's
so
cool.
They're popping videos up, and it's all about drawing, and so they're doing their little drawings, little owls, and like by adult standards, it's not great. Right?
Yeah.
I love them to death, but it's not great. But it something about it, when I see it, there's this purity in it, because I wish I could remember who said it, but there was like this musician that became very popular. I cannot remember the person for the life of me right now, but he said, when we started, we were foolish enough to believe that we can make it. And we did. And it's like I see my boys and everything, and I see like they're so young, and they're not corrupted by all the ideas of people saying you're not good enough, you're not talented enough, you're not whatever. And it's like they're not corrupted by that. So it's almost like it seems foolish, but in a sense, if you can get your mindset in the right place and say, no, this is where I'm going, this is who I am, this is where I can be, you might be able to actually become that thing and that person. I don't know if that's the same thing you're talking about, but that's kind of what it made me think about with our boys. So
it's just exists in that same space. It's basically the same thing.
That's
totally,
awesome, man. So all your musical endeavors, what's inspiring you right now when it comes to, like, I saw some things about flaming swords and dancers, and I know you're playing music with Cat King. What's inspiring you right now, artistically and musically?
Musically, what's really helping, and what really what really cracked this open was Terra Luna, when I did this performance with Quixotic, and I had to be outside 3 hours straight, play this circular wind chime at like 2 levels to it, and I had to play that just for 3 hours without stopping.
3 hours straight?
Yeah, 3 hours straight.
Wow.
And I haven't played that instrument, a melodic instrument, for 3 hours straight before. So it was a new space for me to be in, and I had to kind of like figure out how to get into a meditative state and let that 3 hours just go by.
Right.
But it helped me figure out how to tap into create a space that I couldn't tap into before. And it came with just letting go more and more of all the habits that I've already developed in order to keep the moment like fresh and alive and all that stuff. You have to, or even just for yourself, so you're just like you don't just die. You
Right.
just- or at least die mentally.
3 hours.
Yeah, because
here.
it helped me to figure out a space to kind of find new rhythms, new ideas, new feels that made me feel alive and like made me feel like, oh, this is interesting, or I'm growing or developing. And
I
that
see.
was just it was just the whole.
So it doesn't fall to be mechanical, but it continues to be artistic for you.
Yeah,
in a sense.
it became less mechanical and more artistic because I stopped relying on what I knew and started to reach for what was beyond what I knew or what I already tried. And I started, even if I didn't have any kind of awareness or perception of what these rhythms or new movements were,
Right.
I know I was still like reaching for it by not repeating what I had already done.
The last hour and a half.
Yeah, and that helps because I can go sit with my students and kind of help teach them the same thing, and even just like taking your knowledge and teaching it to other people, seeing how the information gets from here to here and whether they really grasp it or not, just being aware of that and tweaking it and all those different things are adding to me being able to express music how I want to be myself. And when you talked about the fire stuff, I just love fire. I just always
That was
have.
an affinity we both share.
Yeah.
we always like lighting things on fire and bringing it on stage, even when people would tell us to stop because something about insurance. But I don't know.
Yeah, didn't we do that at the Granada?
Actually, well, you got shut down.
Oh yeah,
with
I got shut down once.
with Trey. Is it MC Trey? Trace?
Yeah.
Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
With Nick and them, when you toured with them, we thought we were gonna get shut down in Wichita, but the owner came out. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And
he was
we
chill.
were like, "Oh shit!" And he was like, "No, that's cool. I just saw the fire and I came to look at,
Yeah,
came to see
exactly.
what's going on."
Most situations have been cool, fortunately. Some situations, someone just like ran up on stage in the middle of the performance. Oh, it was with Vigilant Thieves at the Granada. And he was like,
Nope.
nah. Now you got to
Yeah,
shut that
Great
out.
White kind of ruined that for everybody. Thanks.
Yeah.
They didn't really do it properly. So
Which was interesting because they're like, you're doing more than anyone else has like tried to do in Hero of Fire. The most we had is these weird abstract metal bands come in and light candles on stage and stuff like that. And I felt kind of proud in a way.
you're taking precautions, but we still can't afford the insurance. So
Yeah, you're one. And I kind of like, I think I got a little bit of that from you because you're like, you like to do things and ask for forgiveness
I
later. You
definitely
just go
have
in. That's not,
do it and ask for forgiveness
you just
later.
do what you want.
Yes.
Me, I'm just like, yo, this is cool. Da-da. I check, make sure there's a space for it.
Right.
You're just like, nah, fuck it. This is what I feel like.
I have found
do
that most people won't stop you. And then the ones who do, I respect them. Like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't want me to do it, I won't do it.
Yeah, you respect them or you respect the space. You're like, oh, I get it, fine.
Right. Definitely, man.
But
So you're working with, I saw it was Carrie
Oh, yeah, Carrie from Quixotic.
and doing that. Are you guys doing, is that a Quixotic thing or is that something you guys are doing just on your own?
It's just on our own right now.
Okay.
Maybe it'll turn into like, that's the goal. Like I talked with Anthony and whatnot, and he saw what we were doing. He's like, yeah, when that gets finished, let me know so we can talk about putting it on a show. Because that's kind of how most of these projects starts off. Is just
They
everyone's-
create something
Yeah,
and
you're
then they
creating
put it in.
something, and once it's finished or close to finished, it's like, oh yeah, we can put that in the show, or you can do your own thing with it. Good luck,
Right.
type of deal. But yeah, that's what the stage it's at for us right now. Is just
That's cool.
creating this thing. Is so we got a fire drum thing happening. And,
That's awesome. I'm all about that.
Oh yeah, it's cool for me because I get to do something else besides drumming. Like most of my life, my main output has been this one thing, and I don't really have much experience outputting to the world doing different other things.
But you're a dancer as well. That's one thing we learned on tour. And
I'm not a dancer.
You were dancing.
I like to dance.
You look good dancing. I'm just saying.
I like to dance, but I'm not a dancer.
I thought you took like classes and did all that. Was that made up?
No, that wasn't made up. That was like college. Like they have those extra.
So you and Carrie working out. This we had some technical difficulties, so we're coming back in. You and Carrie are working out this flaming swords and flaming drumming.
Yeah.
Did I say that right? It sounds
Yeah.
weird, flaming drumming. But yeah, so that might be a next iteration for Quixotic, or just for you two in general, or
All levels. You could say for Quixotic, for them, for me. It really just feels exploratory for the most part. Like I've gathered a certain process for how, like, you know, what you need to do to really get better at a thing.
Right.
So like drumming. So I take the certain like consistencies that I found with drumming, and now I'm just applying it to this other skill. Like I was working on this movement, and then I was like, all right, let me take this, like this idea of going at it really slow, but also tempo. So let me kind of move this way in tempo, like kind of how I tell my students, first explore speed, move fast, slow, then add volume onto the layer. Now move fast, slow, and add volume to this different thing, and then maybe add breaks. So move fast, slow, and then add breaks and volume. So I was kind of doing the thing, kind of same thing with my movements with my arm, where I was just doing this and
like add more precision, add more control.
yeah. I feel like I was kind of adapting to it quicker,
Right.
Because I had this other thing to use that allowed me to come up with this motion that I probably wouldn't have come up with before. It would have taken me longer to figure it out.
Right.
And yeah,
But it was
I don't
already
have
a
much to say
process.
about it because I'm still like learning it. Like I'm still like trying out this process and exploring it.
But it sounds like the processes that you've used in drumming and business,
Yeah.
you've applied now in this new spot,
Yeah.
this new place.
Yeah, there's just certain things that you can just apply across the board to whatever practice you pursue. Like I tell students, you have to breathe. You can't create tension within your body. You need to be relaxed as you move, because that's actually going to lend itself to developing healthier and your body moving how it should be. And it's the same thing for whether you're, you know, athletic things, still being relaxed and all that stuff, and breathing and not tensing up because it's not healthy for you. Those all those different things. I'm just looking for things that I can apply across the board,
Right.
and develop more consistency in my life, and also kind of hopefully give that to other people and help them develop some sort of consistency that helps them, you know, either feel like they're growing mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever. Just looking for that.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, the D-Cole, I know, always has some big goals in front of him. Is that still a thing for you, or does that look different? Like, is there some big grand goals, or are you focused more on the day to day right now for you personally?
I think the overall goals.
The gnats. We have gnats floating around.
Fruit flies.
Fruit flies.
Yeah, the overall goals I think have still been there, where I was like, you know, this is kind of what I want to accomplish and achieve in life, and also being able to help people as well. I think those goals are still exist, and being able to, instead of having a destination that I arrive to one day, more so having just like a destination that I can experience every day, moment by moment, instead of like focusing on a place to get to, just already being there.
Yeah.
And then just focusing on being. That's like kind of what all this.
So is it more leaning into the process and being happy with yourself in that process? Am I translating that correctly, or
happy
no?
with yourself in the process, in the moment.
Okay.
But also really just more than that, what's really feels like you're living out this idea of like what's true, like how's your nature really supposed to be functioning, and finding that. So not just for yourself, but just when you realize that, it's also just so you can give it to other people. We're all supposed to be, having these different exchanges that help us grow and help us progress and help us experience life a certain way. But like we said earlier, it's just how things have been established currently.
Yeah.
Don't give us the space to do that. So that's why I'm kind of moving how I'm moving and trying to think the way I think and adjusting wherever I feel like is where I need to really adjust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. In all of this, it sounds like, in a sense, you've had a lot of awakening personally.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, it just feels like the range of what I've been able to receive has been expanded. I've had like plenty of conversations with different friends. We'll go on walks or spend out time in nature, just more. And a lot of these things, I feel like I'm getting the truth. I feel like I'm come more so from those moments.
Yeah.
More from just like what I'm like going and digesting online or stuff like that, but really it's like sitting with nature and watching its consistencies and realizing that wherever there is a function on any level, there's a source that's feeling that function.
Yeah.
Whatever you can call it, it's whatever. You can call it whatever you want, but there's some life force or whatever that's feeling a function on any level and just kind of like trying to discover that more.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of where things are sitting right now.
And it sounds like meditation is kind of a big piece of this for you.
Huge piece.
What does that look like for you? What's your... So I meditate more from a physiological state, like not necessarily spiritual state.
Yeah.
Like it's more physical and physiological, mental focus. But what's your approach when it comes to meditation? What is like for even down to like tomorrow morning when you get up, or tomorrow afternoon when you go into nature and you're going to meditate? What does that look like for you?
I guess for me, at least where I feel like I'm at whenever I try and go and meditate, in my head, I'm trying to quiet everything down as much as possible and really training my physical mind to not be distracted by the noise and really learn how to get to the space that it's aiming to get to without having all these obstacles to jump over. You're just sitting here like,
I got to get this done. You got to get that.
Yeah,
That pops right up. So
yeah, just not being able to get back to that space where you feel like you have a really good connection with whatever is making you move in here. And so whenever I meditate, it's about being as still and silent as possible and not really in making all the noise. It's like less significant. You can't really stop the mind from being itself and doing what
it
it's
just
doing.
keeps racing.
It's going to operate how it operates, but you can put your mental in a space where the significance of that can be quieted down so you can get yourself in a place where you feel centered. And so it just takes time to really develop that and get used to that. So right now I'm just spending the time, doing that. That's a big piece for me. And then when I meditate with other people, it really just depends on the goal for us.
Oh, so like a
in that
group
moment.
meditation?
Yeah, or it's usually just one-on-one. Like I have a friend that I go with and meditate from the mornings, and we go on walks and stuff like that. And so whatever the intention is for us in that moment where we're trying to gather, connect into, it's just those different things. But I think the key thing first is to stop all the noise. Because where does that noise come from? Did it come from you, or did it come from this place? Like, it's hard to determine, because when you look at like a body of water and you have all these raindrops, you see all the ripples that happen. But when the water is super still and you like maybe one thing plops in the water like a rock, it's easy to determine where that ripple's coming from, what that ripple is, like where it's easy to analyze and interact. And dude, that's kind of the same thing in here. It's easy to kind of figure out what do you need to give your attention to
this thing
when you don't have so many things just like creating ripples with inside yourself.
No, I feel you, man.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, it does. And that's actually today. So like today I tried to meditate in more of a mantra style, which I don't do, to be honest. But I did. And so like the concept, the one word I focused on was peaceful. And all I kept envisioning, it's funny you mentioned that, was a very calm lake
Yeah.
in like a mountain scene, and just wanting to be that calm lake. But I started processing like what are the things that cause those ripples. It really didn't go super deep. It was really just kind of like a touch on that, and like that image popped up because it was about 15 minutes and that was about it.
Yeah.
But it's
you're done with it. You're like, all right, this is as far as I
right. Like I got to move on. But
I feel you.
But it's interesting you bring up that because meditation has been a thing I would say more I dabble with, not like in no way like expert practice of it. But yeah, I'm curious, like for you is a mantra based style like meditation, is that something you dive into?
Where you have the chants,
and
like
the
words and stuff
like
that.
and like I said, literally today is the first day ever I have tried it in a long time. Let's just say, or I mean, I don't know. What does that practice look like for you?
Yeah, I try that too if it feels natural and feels right to do it. If I feel like, that day I should, go at it this way. And whenever I do those mantras and stuff like that, it feels right. It feels like it's hard to always explain, but it feels like there's some sort of alignment that's happening. There's some sort of whenever you are doing things, you're signaling to your body, this is how I want to operate and function. So your body then starts to produce the chemicals and whatnot that you desire. That you're basically
Your body's
asking
like,
for.
oh, we need to do this.
Yeah, all right.
Jumping.
So like now we're shifting gears and now we're
Right.
acting. We're going to do this way, and it produces the chemicals and whatnot that are going to take you in this direction. All those chemicals and whatnot, they produce a certain energy or a certain emotion and whatnot. And so it's just focusing on what it is specifically you're trying to develop and build, and what you're trying to generate for whatever purpose that you've like set out for yourself, or that you feel like you're aiming towards.
Right.
So
So
the
in a sense-
mantras really at times really help me get there, I guess quicker.
Yeah. So in a sense, it's almost a practical thing. I think some people look at meditation as impractical and more like out there, kind of like the icing of the cake. But it sounds like you're saying it's more of a practical, if I want to create this thing in my life.
But
I need to
why do you
focus.
think it is that people feel that way towards it? I just think it's because of how it's been presented to us, how
Right.
people give us this thing. Like even just today, when we were talking and walking, there was this thing about whatever. If you're going to speak at all, for me, your words must be true, or as true that you can make it in the moment.
Right.
Because whatever like originates in here, it's coming out through all these different conditioned things that you've gone through in life, and whenever it like it's all naturally been the truth. Sometimes we don't always say what it really is, what we're really feeling. I know that's a frustrating thing, especially in conversations we had where we're like, yo, I kind of want things to go this way so people can stop bullshitting and actually really show who they really are, because we're not getting anywhere. We're not getting anywhere productive or truthful with the more we sit in the fabrication, the more we add on to what's lies. But evil is something that, presents itself as something good, and it reveals itself later to be something else. And that's something evil. If you're going to be a horrible person, be a horrible person. Be nasty. Don't,
So in a sense, if I hear you right, it's like goodness is honesty, and evil is essentially deception. I mean, if we're going to boil it down.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, or?
Yeah, that's a piece of it. Yeah, that's definitely part of it, and that's just that was just from today.
Yeah.
That was just from today. There's another walk, another talk,
Yeah.
and that came through.
No,
But besides
Well, and it's interesting because even some of the interviews I've had today, we've done a series of them, and the interviews previously, it's like when you boil down to this idea of honesty and authenticity, sometimes that unsettles people, and sometimes it creates things that, like, even down to, like, you think of a marriage. If a marriage is broken and someone's authentic and says it's broken, it causes a separation. But in the end, in a sense, it almost becomes a positive thing because people were finally honest as opposed to lying and deceiving.
Yeah, because if you're being honest and you're generating that signal, if you're generating a signal of honesty and truth, you're going to then, law of attraction, attract that, bring that to you, or you're going to navigate to that. The more and more you sit with and analyze and look at what is really this or what's really this,
Right.
that's the direction you're going to end up going in.
So it's maybe the quicker we can just get to what's more authentic and what's more honest, the better off all of us might be in relationships.
Yeah,
And
in relationships, because that's all.
And in pursuits, really.
That's all we got at the end of the day
Yeah.
is relationships. Either relationships with each other,
Right.
relationships with this device, relationships,
Right.
with ourselves. People
Yeah.
are always seeking to be in a relationship with something, whether they're intending to or not, because there's this sense of aliveness that people want to experience.
Yeah.
That, like, we've touched on from time to time, but we don't know how to, or we've lost the ability to be able to tap into that consistently all the time. Is whatever this sense of love and like, I don't know, whatever words you want to use to describe it.
Well, and for some reason, I think the word authenticity keeps coming up. It's like, how honest can we get with ourselves, and how honest can we be to the people around us, and authentic. And then in that we can discover who we are, what we really want, and we can discover who other people are that we care about.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know even in us touring together, we've had our places where or it's like, you're not really being good in this space.
Yeah.
D-Cole, you're not really.
We both would definitely butt heads
Yeah.
along the way. That's for sure.
And so, yeah, that's why I'm just.
But I think even that authenticity, even the tensions we've had on the road or even in our own personal lives, interpersonal lives, in relationships, I feel like I know I've grown from it. And I feel like those things have ultimately helped us in a sense, and in a way it makes me trust you more as a friend because I know we navigated those things.
Yeah.
Yet we're still able to run together in some ways. If that makes sense. But
Oh, yeah, it makes total sense. It makes the most sense, actually, to me. The more I sit down and just, like, look at these things, what doesn't make sense is that I'm eating or drinking something that's making my body go this direction instead of this direction, but why am I doing it? That doesn't make sense to me. Why are we taking all these things and disconnecting ourselves from being able to operate at the highest function that we can?
so like what doesn't make sense is
That doesn't make sense to me. That's
delving
why
into like if alcohol as opposed to the social lubricant that people say it is.
Yeah.
If it becomes a thing that makes me escape from actual real life, it becomes
Yeah, like me
detrimental.
Me not drinking alcohol for a long time was me kind of almost trying to be like a living example, not from like a Christian standpoint, even though that's like what I like called myself. Is still, I feel like me not drinking alcohol was me being an example of, you guys say I either have to do this for these reasons, these social reasons, or when you turn 21, this is just like what we do. Like people instill this sense that you are supposed to and should live that way, and I reject like any idea or thing that doesn't come out as true. I don't see this as bad, but the word should or supposed to, where did that come from?
So it's a way for you to harness your own autonomy.
Yeah, it's a way to harness my own autonomy and like make sure whatever I'm aiming towards and interacting with is really me. But when you start taking on and accepting and applying what didn't come from within your experience, you're being foolish, you're being risky, or if you're going for something not in your experience, then you're acting in a sense of hope or faith, because you don't really know what's not in your experience. You don't really know something that you haven't physically perceived or have run through your 5 sense organs. So until that really happens, the information that someone says to you, you can only like hope or bet that they know what they're talking about. Yeah.
Right.
Because either they're going to lead you this way or they're going to lead you that way. And however you want to rationalize that or paint that image, that's up to whoever.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, and in all this discovery for you over the last few years, when you think of this concept, the idea of living a great life, like what does living a great life mean to you right now?
Oh, living a great life to me means being the fullest version of myself. The fullest, most untouched version of myself. Like when you think of like nature and whatnot, and you walk out in nature in this sense of like, there's something that like happens whenever sometimes you just go out in like the country or just a beautiful environment that you haven't been in. There's this sort of like thing that happens. So a great life for me is being able to reproduce that. And what I've discovered is what helps you being able to reproduce that is operating in a true way within yourself and between each other. How we should be taking care of each other, how we should be having conversations with each other, how you should have a conversation with yourself. Those are what lead to a great life. If I'm not operating out of the truth within myself, then I'm only, I could just be self-serving. It'll be a great life for me, but inevitably that's going to come back, and it's going to, it could potentially just ruin it for everyone else, and that actually doesn't lead to a great life.
So that tears you down ultimately in the end as well. So. Living a great life to me means living as true and as natural to your character as you possibly can. Yeah. That's cool, man. I dig that. So, obviously, you're an incredibly creative person. So, for you right now, what does creating great things mean?
Creating great things is diving into, because the life is full of possibilities. Like, I think I had posted before, where just because you see the color red doesn't mean the full spectrum isn't present. That full spectrum of all the colors that are out there are still present around and within that one color. It's just whatever it's interacting and bouncing off of, it's only showing that color red, but there's still more there. And if you change this, you can, just reflect different colors. You can experience the full spectrum of life. So to create things is to dive in to the full spectrum and not just sit in that one color, but explore all the different colors within yourself. You're not just this one limited person. You may be outputting one thing right now, but there's still a full range of human there. There's a full range of life that can be presented. That's exactly why I'm like trying to step out and do other things besides drum, but like the fire source.
Let's explore this. Let's check it out.
Yeah, and so creating a great life means going that direction and leading other people to go that direction as well. Yeah, or creating a great life, creating great things. They all kind of like come together. It all kind of comes together. But creating great things will come from exploring that full spectrum, taking what's beyond what's already been established, or patterns that you've already kind of got in your belt, and touching something that hasn't been touched before. And I think that's how you create great things. And then applying truth to whatever it is you just found out there and boom, then you output that, and that'll be great. And I think we see evidence of that in so many different artists or pieces of architecture or pieces of like music, just whatever, even just physical feats as well. We see examples of greatness out there because people have found a space and touched it, and some people find more than one spaces and they're just talented in a bunch of things.
Just like shooting it out.
So just explore the full range and spectrum of what actually exists inside yourself.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you for making the time, man. That's awesome. Thanks for
Hey.
hanging out. It's good to connect.
Yeah, super good
And
to
we'll
connect.
probably turn out the cameras and keep drinking, and it'll be good.
I'm down.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.